Hi, I'm Vicky Wood, the Subject Advisor for Maths and Statistics. And in this short video, I'm going to be talking to you about entry-level certificate in maths, what you need to know to be able to make a quick start with this. So this video is really for teachers who are considering an alternative, an entry-level qualification, maybe to support learners who are looking unlikely to get that pass in GCSE. So we're going to talk about what learners this qualification is most suitable for, how it compares to the other entry-level qualification available, so entry-level functional skills, what are the differences and why might you choose entry-level certificate rather than entry-level functional skills. We'll also look at what to expect from the assessments and how to administer them, as well as looking at some resources that are there to support you in delivering this qualification. So let's dive in to look at the entry-level certificate, or ELC for short. So one of the key things we need to consider is which learners is the ELC entry-level certificate maths most suitable for. So it's important to know that an entry-level certificate is typically aimed at learners who have got lower levels of attainment, who may really struggle with that traditional qualifications and that formal exam setting. So entry-level qualifications are below a GCSE level. So they're also available at 3 sub-levels. So with the most accessible being entry level 1, working through to entry levels 2 and 3 being the most challenging. And that entry level 3, a pass there, sits at just below a GCSE grade 1. And there are some elements of crossover in terms of the content there with a GCSE grade 1. It's important to know that school performance measures only count towards GCSEs and certain tech awards, so the entry-level certificate, that doesn't count towards your school performance measures. So I thought it'd be really helpful just to look at some context in which centres are currently delivering entry-level certificate. So on screen here we can see a few different ways in which it might be delivered to students. So firstly, maybe you've got a nurture group, some students that you've identified possibly as part of their transition into year 7 who are going to need a little bit more bespoke support, maybe some alternative pathways to really support them in making that progress through key stages 3 and 4. So we might be delivering ELC with those younger learners maybe around year 9, maybe even looking at progression to the Edexcel award in number and measure before as a stepping stone towards that eventual progression to sitting their GCSE. The most common context I'd say that teachers get in touch about is that middle one where you've identified a group of either year 10 or year 11 learners who are looking unlikely to get that pass at GCSE, and so we're looking to something that can give them a sense of achievement and allow them to gain a maths qualification, a pass in a maths qualification. So the key thing here that I would flag up is that if you remember a few slides ago, we talked about how an entry-level qualification sits below a GCSE grade 1. So thinking carefully about where are your learners currently working? Yeah, they might not be looking likely to get their grade 4, but are they at that grade 1 and below that is most suitable for an entry-level qualification? Or if they're working in the ranges maybe grade 2 and 3, maybe an alternative qualification such as the Edexcel award in number and measure might be pitched at a more appropriate level of challenge, more likely to engage those learners. So that's just really the key consideration that I'd flag up there. And then lastly, as part of a kind of a overall pathway of achievement, so quite often special schools or alternative provisions will use ELC as part of a structured pathway and curriculum that then might include progression onto functional skills and a range of other vocational qualifications. And one of the key questions that teachers ask is, well, what's most appropriate for my learners? Is it entry-level certificate or entry-level functional skills? Which one is going to be set them up best for success? So we're going to look at some of the differences here to help you make that choice for your learners in your setting. So the qualification aims are slightly different, really. The ELC is primarily designed to develop those underpinning mathematical skills to enable their progress towards the study of GCSE maths, whereas functional skills is very much about application of mathematical thinking in context to solve a problem, and it's pitched at providing a foundation to progress to employment and to help learners develop skills for everyday life. So very much aimed at your older learners. On screen here, you can see what to expect from the assessments. So for both entry-level certificate and entry-level functional skills, the assessments are externally set, internally marked and externally verified. So what that means in practice is we provide you with the assessments, you guys administer them and mark them within your setting, and then return them to us for some external verification and moderation. So for ELC, it's a test and a task. In entry level 3, we also introduce a calculator test as well. So there are 2 tests at that level. There's no set time limit, which is absolutely great to support learners in just kind of really being able to show what they can do. And it's a simple pass or fail, and that pass mark is set at 70%. Functional skills, it's a single assessment that's delivered. There are 2 sections to the test. There's a non-calculator and calculator section, and you can see those timings on screen there. And again, that is a straightforward pass or fail, with the pass mark is set at 75% at entry levels 1 and 2 and 70% at entry level 3. In terms of content and teaching time, you can see the guided learning hours for each qualification on screen there. And in terms of the content areas, very similar in terms of the content that they are addressing. Entry-level certificate does bring in some simple algebra and some simple work in direct proportion at entry level 3. And we can really see the main difference between the 2 qualifications in how the style of the questions differ. So with ELC Maths, it's very simple and straightforward language, very instructional. There's really minimal context, so it allows the students to really just focus on the maths. Whereas functional skills, it's all about problem solving in context. So learners will be presented with some information, they will be given a problem to solve or a conclusion that they need to reach, and they'll have to provide that supporting working and figure out how they're going to solve that problem themselves. So a lot of the contexts are really more suitable for post 16, so they're around the workplace or skills in everyday life, things like renting a flat or managing a budget. So maybe not appropriate for those younger learners. They won't have that life experience or that contextual understanding to really engage with that successfully. Also, reading comprehension can be a barrier here, and also if you have students with English as a second language, they can struggle with accessing the language and the context used within those functional skills questions. And as we just summarised, some of the reasons there why you might choose ELC Maths over entry-level functional skills. It's much more suitable for your younger learners. It's really straightforward and simple language that just allows them to focus on the maths, and there's no time limit on those assessments. That can be a big factor for certain learners. It's very much designed to support progression towards GCSE, so it's suitable within a school context as part of that longer term pathway. And another thing to note is that the administration is really straightforward, it's very minimal. So you're already set up to deliver GCSE, then it's a very simple case of just entering your learners for entry-level certificate and accessing the assessments, whereas functional skills is a bit more complicated. You have to go through a separate approvals process and a quality assurance process as well. So very straightforward. One of the things that centres do worry about with entry-level certificate is the administrative burden on the teacher. There are other boards entry-level certificates available where learners have to complete a full portfolio of work, and there's a little bit more of an administrative burden there. That's not the case with the Pearson EdXL entry-level certificate. It is just those components of the test and the task. There's no need to create a big portfolio of work, so it is very straightforward for the teacher in that respect. Some of the reasons you might go for functional skills instead of entry-level certificate, maybe you've got older learners or students that really need that real life context or need to see that application to their own lives and their future ambitions in order to engage with the maths, functional skills can be a really great way of motivating those learners. And another benefit of functional skills is that if you're looking for a flexible entry pattern, so maybe you've got students who might join and leave your setting throughout the academic year, with those assessments and certification being on demand, that's much more suitable to that setting. Whereas with ELC maths, the certification's only done on once a year on an annual basis, so that very much suits a school setting where you've got learners with you throughout the full course of the year. So now I'm just going to talk through where you can find the assessment materials and what to expect from those. So entry-level certificate is the same assessments that are available for the lifetime of the qualification, and these assessment materials are under gold padlock on our website. So what that means is that they can only be accessed by your exams officer once entries have been made. So once you've made those entries, your exams officer will be able to download those materials for you. It will come with the full mark scheme and guidance of how to mark that work, and you'll be able to then set up and deliver those assessments to your learners. So we have a set of sample assessment materials that can be used as practice sets, or you might use these in terms of determining which entry level, whether it's entry level 1, 2 or 3, is going to be most suitable for each individual learner. They can be accessed on the qualification site via the link that's at the top of the slide. And just on screen, you can see the first few pages of an example there from the sample assessment materials. This is one of the tests for entry level 2. So you can see the structure there of how it starts off, really accessible, very straightforward start for that test for your learners. And here is an example of the task component. So this is where it's a little bit more open-ended problem solving for your learner. So on screen here we can see they're presented with some money, some coins, and told the cost of a pencil and asked to give all the different ways they could make that value using the coins that they've got. And this is very much designed to be, delivered with use of manipulatives. So you can imagine your learner sat there with the teacher or a learning support assistant, maybe with some fake or real money even, moving those coins around on the desk to figure out all the different ways that they can make those values. At entry level 1, they complete part 1 of the task. At entry level 2, they complete parts 1 and 2. And then at entry level 3, they complete all 3 parts of the task. So it's the same context, they just complete progressively more challenging sections of the task as they move up through those entry levels. Here's the overall timeline of administration. So once you've decided that ELC is the right qualification for your learners, you can have a chat with your exams officer, get those entries made via edXL Online. Really simple and straightforward process. And the deadline for those entries is the same as it is for all of our other summer series of exams, which is the 21st of Feb. That's not to say that you can't make an entry after that date, it just would incur a late fee. So once you've got your entries made, your exams officer is going to be able to download those live assessment materials for you, and there are 3 sets available. So that means that should your learner not quite meet the benchmark that they need for a pass, then you have got those additional sets available for them to retake any components should that be needed. So once they've sat those, you're going to be marking them using the mark schemes that are provided. And just what's really important is to make sure that once those assessment materials, that you've done the assessments, you've marked them, that are held securely by your exams officer until they're required to be submitted for moderation. So give them back to your EO. They're going to keep them in a nice secure safe in their exams office until we send them the request and the instructions to submit that work for moderation. So the moderation takes place, the deadline for that is the 15th of May every year. So we need to make sure that in terms of your long-term planning, that you're building in enough time to conduct and mark those assessments whilst allowing some time for retaking any of the components should it be needed, to give you plenty of time to get everything ready to be submitted for the 15th of May. So lastly, we're going to just take a look at some of the resources that are available to support you in delivering entry-level certificate. So all the resources are held under the teaching and learning materials section of the website, and there's a link to that at the top of the slide. And these include things such as a 2-year course planner to help you in planning to deliver all of the content for ELC. There are some marking exemplars to support you in marking those live assessments. So these are held under gold padlock, so you would need your exams officer to download those for you at around about the time when they're accessing those live materials. Under progression guidance is one of the most useful resources, and this is something called the Access to Foundation GCSE Scheme of Work and Resources, and we'll look at that on one of the next slides. There's also teacher guidance on how to administer the tasks, giving you really clear instructions on how to administer that within the classroom, what you can do, what you can't do, what can be provided to the student, etc. And there are also some topic worksheets as well that you can be using in lessons. So the Access to Foundation tier resources that we mentioned, these are a set of resources that are designed to support learners in bridging the gap from entry level 3 to GCSE. So they cover the same content as the entry level 3 objectives and build upon those as well. So it can be used as effectively a bridge between entry level 3 and your foundation tier GCSE. And actually, these are really just great to be using with your entry level 3 students as part of delivering that content with that longer term objective of progression to GCSE in mind. It includes loads of really helpful stuff, lots of teacher notes on how to support the students. There's a great little activity there on screen that you can see about how to introduce the whole concept of equivalent fractions with students and how to develop a deeper understanding by folding of paper. Really great for students in terms of just a little bit more of tangible learning that's going to help them understand those concepts more deeply. And because it has all of those full supportive notes as well, it's really helpful if you've got some non-specialist staff or some teaching learning support staff working with your students as well. These are activities that they can be confidently delivering with your students. We also have a really helpful bank of FAQs, and this is always a page that I tell teachers to bookmark if you are delivering ELC, because if you've got a question as you're starting to deliver the assessments or you're thinking about special considerations for your learners with additional needs, quite often the answer is on here. So definitely click that link and bookmark the page. And you've got me as your subject advisor here to support you. So there's a few different ways you can get in touch with me. You can email me at teachingmaths@pearson.com, and you can also book a one-to-one appointment with me. It's my favourite part of the job is speaking to teachers, learning more about your students, the individuals that you're working with, and figuring out which qualifications and which methods of delivery and resources are going to be the best to support your students to succeed. So please do get in touch via those links below.